and how they're linked. If somebody is like site swap, well, we're versed in site swap, can you put in the chat like 423 and then the bracketed 4x2 pattern, just so people can see that if they want? You don't have to know site swap at all to be able to do these patterns, but seeing the structure of them helps with this layering and how you can use one pattern to get a step closer or further from the other. So 423, you probably have heard of as a juggler. It's either left, left, right, right, or the W. Here it is in a very simple form with clubs. This whole workshop is going to really rely a lot on active twos. So that moment there where I was just sort of holding this club, right, is where there's all this potential. So a 423 with an active two just has this one little extra throw down here. And if you haven't done an active two before, it's a very quick thing. So what I'm doing is really pushing down with my thumb. So I'm not throwing the club up at all. So it spends the same amount of time in its position as if I were just holding it, but it's doing something visually appealing. Could y'all see that? Right. So if this is a new thing for you, you might want to just have some of these clubs doing these little active twos. You should be able to do it without looking or thinking. That's like gonna be pretty important to doing these patterns, because it has to happen like through muscle memory. Now from the side you can see the 423 with the non-active two is a little boring. When you add that active two, it gets real simple version of 4x2. If you're not familiar with site swap, what those little parentheses means is that you're notating both hands at once, right? So the 4, 2, 3 and 4, 2, 3 represents left, right, left. The 4x2 is left, right. So that's just one beat. And because you're notating both hands at the same time, these are synchronous patterns. There are no odd numbers. So the X means that it's the 4 crosses, right? So here we go from the 4, 2, 3. It's got this nice asynchronous rhythm. And then I transition into 4x2. And you can still see it's this little throw under the double. The double is just crossing, right? And so from the side, again, that's, oops. It's gonna look nice and active. Now, if you haven't done an active two in a 4-2-3, like I said, you'll wanna work on just activating, or work on just this little throw. And I would do these sort of like one at a time, right? I'm gonna do a 4 with a 2, right? And then back into a pattern. And then the other side, of 4 with a 2 and back into the pattern. Right. I'm going to kind of try to do this workshop like tutorial style, where I'll be going through a lot of points and then kind of coming back to address any questions or thoughts. So that the important thing about this activation in the 4-2-3 is timing, right? So if you notice when I'm doing my 4-2-3, I'm really trying to put my 2 right in sync with the peak of the 4, so that it's a very even tempo, right? So I have 4-2-3, 4-2-3, 4-2-3. And the way that happens is by holding onto the 2 for a little bit of a beat. I see this question about overspinning the 4. So that will come from doing 2 club drills, right? But let me talk about the timing a little bit, because holding on to it is a little counterintuitive, right? So it might be easier to do the 2 when you initiate the 4, because then it kind of like, it takes one thing away from your brain to think about, right? So what that's going to look like is 4 2 3 4 2 3 4 2 3 4 2 3, right? And so that's how I first started accessing these active 2s, was by thinking of, as I'm throwing the 4, I'm just going to do this little 2. You can do the 2 club drill and drill it really with both timings. So I do my 4, wait. I do my 4, wait. I do my 4, wait. That drill should help you not overspin the 4, because it's an entirely separate throw. It's not in your hand at all when you're making this 2. Right? But fitting that into a pattern, there's a little bit more pressure on that 2. So if your 2's a little too high or not quite fast enough, the 3 that's coming right behind it is gonna feel very like under stress, right? So that's where this synced 4-2 can be beneficial, right? That's also an important step in getting to 4x2, right? So if we think about this idea of layering, right? Before I can make a synchronous throw, right? Because that's what the 4x2 is, it's sync, that have both of them coming to my hand, right? I can do this like, first step is the slightly easier 4 and then 2, 4 and then 2. That's going to be a little easier to get clean in a continuous pattern. But also, having worked on this synced version of it prepares me for then making these 2 opposing synced throws. And that's what's really cool about the like classic style of the 4x2, is your hands are moving at the same time, but they're doing very different things, right? So this 2 club drill is going to be real important for that. Right? And so once you have gotten the ability to do a single synced thing, right, and then can run that on both sides, you take sort of that same approach of making just one throw as the 4x and then back into the pattern, right? So the 4x back into the pattern, the 4x back into the pattern, right? And what's interesting to think about, right, is that the 4x2 is notating both of your hands, because, and when I do it in this way, you can see very clearly that both of my hands are performing an action on every beat. But even in what we would think of as a traditional asynchronous pattern, both of your hands are doing things, right? They have objects in them on every beat, right? So while I could notate this as 3, 3, 3, 3, right, and think of it as a standard cascade where one hand is moving at a time, if I do something that's like a very sort of basic trick like chops, what's happening here is a 4x2. The 4x is just really low and the 2 is really simple, so it doesn't take a lot of time. It's not like this where it needs the double to gain that extra time. So any 3 is actually a 4x2, and you can use that knowledge to help you develop and drill new and complicated variations, right? So another way of writing 4, 2, 3 is bracket 4, 2 in sync, 4x2, right? So the 4 and the 2 are on the same beat. And then that beat of the 3 that we would normally notate as just a 3 is also a 4x2, right? So if I do that in an exaggerated way, it's 4x2 or 4, 2, 4, 2, 4x2, 4, 2, 4x2. And you see, if I do that, then I have time for 2 2s on each side, which you can make into like a cool pattern utilizing that. I can't really do those double thumb spins too well, but there's time for it, right? So using this method of connecting a 4x2 and a 4-2-3 makes you more aware of dwell time. And that's where a lot of like magic can happen, because like I said, any of these standard tricks like chops happen because you're using your dwell time. Back crosses happen because you're using your dwell time to move that club, right? So there's this link between these two patterns, right? And while you can use that link to drill the base pattern, you can also use it to explore potential variations and find ways of cross-training things that you want to implement in a continuous way, right? The first thing I'll show you is flourishes, because continuous flourishes look awesome. They're like a classic trick. I love them. I wanted them for years. I didn't understand how to do them, right? I didn't get the timing because I learned how to do flourishes a different way. But I'm going to show you now how I discovered how continuous flourishes work. Because what I learned, how I learned to do a flourish, and how maybe if you can do a flourish, you've learned, is to do this bottleneck catch off a single and then the flourish motion. If you don't know the flourish motion, there's plenty of tutorials on it. You basically, in the style that I like the most, you start with a bottle grip, you kind of fling it up, let it come down and back to your hand ready to throw, right? So the first way I learned how to do a flourish, which is if a flourish is new for you, this is what you would use, is a bottleneck catch on a single and then a same-sided double on the other hand. So that's, I'm not quite sure what that sight swap would be, but it's like what's happening on a 4-2 probably, right? So I kind of have that as a very entry level of how I train a flourish on each side. I then realized, oh, if I throw that instead of on the same side, if I throw it crossing, I can fit 2 in there, right? Because I'm then flourishing under the club that's coming at me and then flourishing on the other side. But that doesn't open me up to continuous flourishes, because even when I'm doing 2, both of my flourishes are on the singles, right? And in order to do continuous flourishes, you have to do a bottleneck catch and flourish off a double, right? So if you're already comfortable with flourishes, forgo doing that flourish off a single and start out of a 4-2-3 pattern with a 4, a bottleneck catch, and a flourish. You'll be making 2 doubles to fit this 1 flourish in, and the flourish initiates off of the bottleneck catch of the first double you make. So I'm going to have a double. I'm going to throw a double up here, from my right to my right, catch it bottleneck, and flourish it while my left is making a double on the other side. Right? And so if I run that continuously, right, what I'm doing is flourishing each of these 4s as the other one's going up. And because the flourish kind of takes a while to do, right, because it's linked to this catch into the flourish, it sort of organically puts itself on that synced timing where I'm flourishing as I'm throwing. So that sort of like naturally prepares you to do it off of the crossing doubles. So again, for this, you're going to be doing 2 doubles to fit in 1 flourish at the beginning. So left, right, flourish. Or I kind of said those wrong. I'm going to throw a left and then a right, catch, and flourish. Left and then a right. Oop. So cool. Okay. So that's how I discovered this ability to use 4-2-3 to train for things that I wanted to make into continuous patterns. Like, okay, if you don't like flourishes, you think they're played out in gauche, or you've never done flourishes and that motion is new to you. Another thing that you can train to help wrap your brain around some of the stuff that's about to come is just this bottle catch and a pull down. The bottle catch is going to become real important because what that does is it opens up this really great amount of potential in the club, because when I bottle catch it, I then have to make a transition or I have to make a weird throw, right? So the four that I throw that feeds into this bottleneck catch becomes the two, which then becomes the four, becomes the two. And the same thing with the 4X. The 4X becomes the two, becomes the next 4X, becomes the two, becomes the next 4X, right? So you can try these if the flourish is not something you're interested in, right? You can do just these little pull downs. And that's a great corrective move to drill. And similarly, what you maybe just noticed me do was a 1.5, 1.5, and a correction. So again, I'm doing this in 4-2-3, but then I switch it to 4x2, and I'm making these continuous oh shits. If I'm feeling really like on my game, I can even do half rotations, and then it's just a fast 4-2-3 or 4x2. That's a good training drill. But so if I'm doing continuous flourishes, I really need to do these under doubles, unless I'm like real good at lofty singles, and maybe you can get those. But those pull downs are a lot faster, right? So flourishes I do under doubles, corrections I do usually under 1.5s. The pull downs can be just out of a regular pattern. And what this is teaching me to do is reach up, interrupt the normal rotation of my club, right? And here I'm doing this pretty simple 4x2. That's going to train me to make a correction if I'm in a pattern. It's going to give me a boost in hand speed. It's going to teach me to control the throw that follows a 2. That's sort of like the hard part of this is like, okay, I just did a really fast thing down here, and now I have to make this controlled throw. So there's a lot of different ways you can train that, and using the 4-2-3 structure slows things down enough that it makes that exploration process a little easier. Yeah, so now I'm going to add another layer that is related to these differences in grip and catch technique, right? So if I go back to this very standard, regular style 4-2-3 with an active 2, I can make that a lot more interesting by shifting it all into wall plane, right? So I take a simple pattern, 4-2-3, I add the layer of active 2s, and then I add the layer of wall plane. Wall plane is really cool, especially with clubs, because maybe there's terms for this, but I think of organic and inorganic throws for each, for wall plane. Like these outside throws that I used for my 4s are very organic as an outside throw because the handle comes right back and your hand stays in the same place. These little inside throws are very organic for a crossing throw because my hand stays in the same place. The handle falls right into the palm of my hand. If I flip that, if I do an inside throw that stays on the same side, then this handle is coming away from me. So I can catch it normally, but it's awkward. And so what's a little easier is to reach up and grab it this way where the handle's coming into my hand. It then puts me in this grip, right? Which then opens potential for a cool new 2, right? So that move right there is cool. And there's a lot of different ways you can get to that grip position, right? So just the way I make an inside throw to the same side, if I make an outside wall plane throw to that crosses, I also get into this grip, which then can become a cool 2. It's a little hard under this ceiling for me to get those 4x2s that have the outside. Okay, actually, I'm going to do it in 1.5s, and it's the same principle, but instead of making this catch, I'll be making this catch and that. So, boom, 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 boom. All right. So that's a nice layered trick. So if I wanted to deconstruct that trick, there's a lot of different parts of it. So there's the simple correction out of 4-2-3. There's the faster, constant correction in 4x2. And then there's the wall plane element. So here I'm going to want to be very comfortable with this wall plane reverse cascade. And then if I just put a little bit of extra spin, lets me catch it differently. If I'm really good, like, you know, if my like low spin lofty throws were as good as Marvin Ong's, I could do this trick that I really want, where it's like, somebody out there, somebody watching can probably do this trick where it's half, half, half. So basically what that's doing is this, boom, boom. And I know it should work, but again, that's something I kind of found through this exploration, and I'm not quite there yet, but I know I can use this. I can deconstruct the layers for it. So I want to do that single spin 4x2 in wall plane. So I should probably practice this single spin 4x2 not in wall plane as a stepping stone. I'm not going to be able to do that right now. But this will teach you kind of like what's the speed of this pattern need to be like, right? Cool. Yeah, nice. 4-2-3 in normal wheel plane with only the wall plane active 2. Oh, that sounds cool. It's a choppy. Okay, yeah, so it'll be on the Club Fest archive. That's cool. Yeah. Let's see. Are there any other questions y'all have at this point? Boy, I've gone fast. This took a lot longer when I was saying it to myself alone. So another cool 4x2 that doesn't feel necessarily like a 4x2. These club takeouts. Boom, boom, boom. No questions, it seems like. Okay. Yeah. So in the exploration and using these techniques to drill, there's this 4-2-3 that I want that's pretty hard, because the 4s are back crosses that are caught with this wall plane bottle grip and flick. All right, I can kind of do it on one side at a time. The other side. Ooh, right? But again, there's a lot of layers to that. Yeah, that is the butterfly back cross. Oh, it's Jimmy. Jimmy taught me a lot of these tricks, by the way. And actually, Jimmy has some great content on his Facebook. So a lot of the ideas about grip and how you catch a club and the different ways that you can correct after doing that, I've picked up from Jimmy over the years, and he has some cool, like, just conversational videos talking about that stuff on his Facebook. So check out Jimmy Robertson. But to start training these butterfly back crosses, right, I realized, oh, I can also get a 4 that comes like this. So trying to get that into a 4-2-3. Oh, under here is going to be a fun little challenge for me. But it should. Whew. You can kind of see how that will, that's then training me to do this throw and correction. Through the takeouts breakdown. Oh, breakdown takeouts. Okay. All right. So this is where this idea of layering kind of, you can only take it so far, right? So like, for example, with chops, knowing this is a 4x2 doesn't help me a lot, right? Because there's not, the 4x and the 2 don't translate to a 4 and a 2, right? So it's hard to train that with the same methodology, but you can still use the breakdown of what's happening and the timing of it. So for takeouts, I really suggest learning chops first, because it's a simpler swing. You don't have to aim as much, right? There's also, I just want to say, there's many different styles of chops. Well, 2 fundamental ones. A lot of people I see teach chops teach this like cross your arms method, which is fine if you're doing this stylistically, but you should know that you don't have to do that. You don't have to cross your arms to do chops, right? And so doing that should be a choice, right? What a single club is doing with the chop is just swinging right to the center and throwing from the center. Swing, chop, right? So when I first learned it, somebody told me, think about it like bounce, hop, right? So if you can do that, then that's the same feeling as takeouts, right? But what's happening with takeouts is you're swinging in the opposite direction, right? So swinging in the opposite direction through your pattern is difficult because you have a big risk of collision, right? So what I can do as a stepping stone after I've learned my regular chops, I can learn to swing backwards without going through my pattern, right? So back, 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 right? And once this motion feels pretty, I just hit myself in the eye. It's gonna happen to you too. Once that motion feels pretty comfortable, right? What you're gonna think about doing is swinging behind your club, right? So in a normal chop where you kind of go over, in the takeout, you're gonna go behind and around. Now, what I think really makes the takeouts with clubs pop visually is also getting your pattern in wall plane. It also makes it easier because you have less of the club in this plane that you have to avoid, right? So if I can do that and that, then I can keep it going with a little bit of concentration. Now, this trick was really painful for me to learn because there's a high chance that you're gonna hit your hand or yourself in the face or the clubs in your pattern. And I don't know of a way to avoid that, right? But just to sort of like break this trick down into its component parts, you should have reverse cascade, or not reverse, you should have a cascade in wall plane with these dips, nice and smooth. You should have normal chops. You should have these little, I don't know, there's maybe a name for this, but these little like floops to the side. And you can see how that goes right into back, 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 back. A great tip to take from Kevin's club swinging videos, if you do these, right? Doing them down is maybe a little more natural, but doing them up, right, is a great way to get the feel of what the takeouts is going to feel like, right? And how to avoid your hand. You can kind of see when I'm doing that, right? The hand that's on top, oh no, that's not a good view. The hand that's on top is kind of alternating, right? So this will help you maybe not hit your hands or pattern as much. And then if I add this third one in, show you what's happening when I'm doing, oh geez, dangerous environment here. Oh gosh. Okay, maybe y'all could see that. I don't know if that was helpful or not. Swing floops. I know those as reverse chops. Oh, see, I think about the takeouts pattern. I kind of just imagine this as reverse chops, but that's maybe not super accurate. Takeouts is probably better. Names for things are weird. This is a cool transition because see, this is in wall plane and it goes right into that, goes right into that 4-2-3. Doop. Hit Control Z. Jeremiah is like one of my favorite jugglers to watch. Okay, we got like 25 minutes. Any other questions? Let me think if I left anything out. I'll just say again that thinking about the 4-2-3 and its different rhythms is pretty important, right? So really drilling the pure async and this little like synced bop, oops. And then the sort of bridge between them of 4-2, 4x2. So 4-2, 4x2, 4-2, 4x2, 4-2, 4x2, 2, 4x2. That's a super helpful drill for trying to get. Can you go in wall plane 4-2-3? Can you go over the 3 toss? You mean a 3 like this? I don't know. I've never tried that. Oh, that feels wrong. All right, so I'm going to try it without the active 2. 4. Oh, why would you make me do that? The answer to that question is no. I mean, you could, somebody else who's not me or not me right now and has practiced that. I feel like there was something else I was going to say. tossing a reverse and wall playing. There's more up above. 4, 2, 3, normal, wheel plane, with only a wall plane active 2. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. I do feel cute. You have to do the active 2. So it's like, wait, bump. Is that what you mean? So it's like 4, 2. Ooh, that seems cool. Yeah, you can mix things up like that. See, I'm so used to doing those dips. One of the first active 2 4, 2, 3s that I did was just that little turn. Wait, now I'm not doing it. Can't remember that. You thought about body throws? Yeah, okay, that's another thing. Like I think a lot about wall playing because that's really my like mood as a juggler. But yeah, this stuff can be applied to body throws, body rolls, and to me, what's like the juiciest thing about this is exploring the way that the 4 or the 4X connects directly into the 2. You know, I saw last IJA Jimmy doing this crazy pattern where it was a bottleneck throw to this bell catch, roll into bottleneck throw, right? And so theoretically that could be a 4X too, right? He was running it as 4, 2, 3, which is hard. But Jimmy does hard tricks. Y'all don't know Jimmy, I'm telling you. And even this 4x2, that's the corrections. Really, I want that to be a nice, pretty roll over the hand, but I can't quite get it there. Yeah, all right. Well, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Yeah, maybe any other questions about, like, I think everybody at this point knows site swap. Thank you, JC, Holly. Y'all are great. Feel free, you can follow me. I'm Lucy Juggles on like all the social medias. If you have any other thoughts or questions about this, definitely hit me up. DMs are open. Yeah, I look forward to when we can all like juggle in person and I can see the weird 4x2s that you have developed. You know, this stuff also applies to ball juggling. I know this is Club Fest. Am I gonna get in trouble for ball juggling? But this is my favorite 4x2 with balls. These little back of the hands.
Ooh,
the same thing would apply to hoops, would apply to staffs, whatever kind of things that you juggle. Just having this strategy of breaking things down into layers. It's all about layers, man. Like an ogre.
like Shrek.
Nice.
Thank you. We do need to pass. Who is that? Yeah. That's Jimmy. Cool. Jimmy, I didn't know your name was James. It's so official. Is there other content that y'all want? Or you want to just watch me do? A seal roll real fast.
Seal roll.
Seal roll.
Nice. Oh, you make
Oh.
that baby.
Boom.
Wow.
Really, you making the most of my time here with Club Fest.
Awesome.
Cool.
You got a little time. Lucy can take requests. You just let me know if and when you officially want to end the workshop. Otherwise, you still have some time.
Oh, I got that one.
Yes.
Okay, wait. Let's see.
You got a question. What's your go-to trick normally? Your go-to trick.
Oh, my go-to trick. Kind of that seal roll that I just did. Although since I've been like all about this like quarantine mood and online juggling, this move that I'll try to do with you all here right now has been my current favorite.
It's recording. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I did this for my Club Fest giveaway.
Nice.
I hope it doesn't fall and hit me in the face. That happened like 3 times. Okay. And it's your girl.
Oh. Yes.
Woo.
Background.
Whoa.
Wow.
I can do.
Nice.
I didn't get the like catch.
Still excellent.
Yeah, I kind of like classic tricks, chops, back crosses, stuff like that tend to be my go-to. I'm used to like juggling on the street or on stage, so I like big flashy tricks. I have not been like that contemporary in my juggling. I don't do any of the cool body rolls, guys. They're really hard. I admire everybody who can do those things.
Jimmy wants to know, do you do the one with the double back crosses with the club spin in front?
No, it's so hard. You know how many times I've hit myself trying that stupid trick? Kate Great has those so smooth. I saw Jack Calvin doing them. Man, they look so pretty. That's a 4x2 too. But it's like there's a lot of layers there because it's adding the back cross, adding the swirl in front. So yeah, not yet.
Cool. Still time for questions or requests from Lucy. Awesome. Seems like they are good on the questions. Lucy, I'll let you wrap it up.
Cool. Well, thanks again. I just want to do a quick little shout out to K8 Malabars. They sent me these wild prototype clubs. This is like a super squishy, grippy handle. I don't use them a ton just because like green's not my like go-to color, but I love K8 props. The clubs I was using before are their Lotus model. They're super lightweight and durable because I juggle outside a bunch. I usually juggle like over concrete. I tend to break clubs with wooden dowels. So like that's my favorite like non-glow prop. And then of course Glow Toys has like, man, the Vision clubs are just so nice and buttery to juggle, and especially with all of like the tricks that I was doing, the wall plane stuff, those like the unicorn mode, the wiggle mode, all those things look so good with this style of like
layered active tricks and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I like props a lot, so I could talk about props for a long time. That's about all I got.
Fantastic. Let's show some love in the chat and with your videos, with the jazz hands. Ooh, seeing a lot of support here for Lucy Eden and an excellent workshop, Creating Complex Cascades. Bravo.
Thanks, I'm so sweaty.